morning. My name is Alice Shackelford. I'm the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Honduras. Before that, I was for 4 years and a half a United Nations Resident Coordinator in Costa Rica. My role as a UN Resident Coordinator is to put together the different pieces of the UN system and to make sure that the United Nations system in the country really delivers in a more efficient and effective manner on the 2030 agenda. So one of the major issues in a country like Costa Rica and Honduras, where I have served as UN Resident Coordinator, is the issue around malnutrition. And now we know very well that nutrition is a critical intersectoral issue for the achievement of the 2030 agenda. And our role as the United Nations is to accompany the countries, not only the governments, but the countries in the implementation of the 2030 agenda. So putting nutrition and malnutrition at the center of the 2030 agenda is critical in countries where this affects particularly at all levels. So my role as the United Nations Resident Coordinator has been in the two countries to really put together the agencies to strengthen the joint work around the critical agencies. In particular, those will be WFP, FAO, WHO, PAHO, and UNICEF, accompanied by other agencies according to the context and others. So to strengthen that joint work and to strengthen also the joint advocacy of these four agencies with the government and other critical stakeholders in the work around nutrition and the fight against malnutrition. If we want to achieve the 2030 agenda, we need to do it in a coordinated manner as the UN system and to enhance also coordinated response by the government and other stakeholders. And that means that also with the government, my role as UN Resident Coordinator is to incentivize and stimulate a more coordinated work across, for example, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Social Development, and others. Because there as well as in the UN system, the response has to be a coordinated and strategic response to ensure that really no one is left behind. But in terms of really leverage nutrition in the work of the UN system, I would say that we have a variety of entry points and opportunities. Now, first of all, we need to make sure that the analysis is a joint analysis within the various agencies and within the various missions and mandates of the agencies that helps also the agency identify the relevance of nutrition issues in their agenda in the day-to-day work. So that element of joint analysis is a critical one, especially if you're working around the new United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation framework, like we are doing now in Honduras. We are working on the common country analysis, and positioning the issue of malnutrition as central within that analysis is a critical strategy. Now, another element in terms of how to bring also the pieces together and how to make sure that really the SUN is supported, the scaling up nutrition movement is supported at the country level within the UN agencies, is around joint programming and joint action. Now, in Costa Rica, when I arrived and I took over as United Nations Resident Coordinator, the SUN working group within the United Nations was not happening. So we really focused and I led the re-establishment of a working group within the four critical agencies, and really also the relationship of this with the government, with the key lead in the government within the Ministry of Health, and also facilitating through that an enhanced work with different stakeholders of the government, because as mentioned before, this is not only an issue of health, it's an issue also of education, it's an issue also of agriculture and other sectors. So in that regard, really strengthening the joint coordination at the UN level, if it's not existent, setting it up and making sure that it's got a rhythm and a life of its own, making sure also that the agencies have a clear understanding that this is a joint work. That means that if an agency is looking at developing a program or a specific intervention around the issue, that agency should consult in advance with the other agency to ensure that also bridges can be built between existing programs and we can enhance our work as the UN system and not just work in an isolated manner, agency by agency. Now, in Honduras, I arrived when I took over earlier this year. There was already an established group with a strong leadership, also coordination by WFP this year. Next year will be FAO, and but it needed also there again. A slight effort in terms of repositioning it, re-enhancing the importance of these agencies to work together and to really to create the existing links and to strengthen the work. This is a country which has huge issues around malnutrition, huge issues around food insecurity, and we need, in order to position this at the center of the agenda, we need a coordinated effort. So my role has been to further incentivize that, further facilitate it, and also habilitate a stronger relationship and dynamic with the government, which had been quite absent after the signing to the Scaling Up Nutrition movement just a few years ago, in the way that the government has not been very strong in following up on the commitment and in articulating a coordinated agenda within the various relevant institutions. But we are now working with the Secretary of social development exactly to enhance that and to further position the issue in the work at the country level and in preparation of the food systems summit in 2021. This is for sure a year of challenges now with the pandemic of COVID-19 and the impact that this has brought not only at the health level and the collapse of the health system in many of the countries also where we are operating, but also in terms of the impact on the social economic development. I mean, the huge loss of jobs, the huge loss of security around economy and income generating activities is something that has directly affected also naturally the nutrition and the food security aspect. Now, in the context of Honduras, this is a country that is living a crisis on top of a crisis on top of a crisis. This is a country which has had, even before COVID, more than 1 million people food insecure. Last year, the country declared emergency for dengue. This year, the country declared emergency for COVID-19. And now, in the last month and a half, Honduras was impacted by 2 tropical storms in less than 2 weeks distance one from the other. The impact on food insecurity and malnutrition is huge. If we had 1.2 million people food insecure, now we have more than 2.5 million people insecure. And the issue here and the real challenge is that the resilience of this community is diminishing, and in particular around food. And now also we were looking, but for example, we're looking at an impact of 2 years in the crops because of these last 2 catastrophic tropical storms. So we have huge challenges here. And I must say that within this, the challenge of looking at women and the impact on children is critical. Women play a critical role in the nutritional dynamic and at the household level, but they are also the ones who have less access to credit, to land, to rights, And the increase of domestic violence and the increase of femicide that we've had during the pandemic is something extremely worrying, but brings this to be another national emergency. So food nutrition, food security, nutrition, gender equality, and leaving no one behind, all is joined together in the challenges that we have had. But through a coordinated effort, through a strong advocacy, not only with the government, but also with other sectors, as mentioned, we can look at really delivering a strategic approach and strategic response, which can also help prepare the country for the Food Systems Summit in 2021.